I'm 81 years old. The hardest part of being a widow wasn't missing my husband. It was the relief I felt when he died. I've carried that secret like a stone for 3 years. Everyone expects a certain kind of grief. They don't ask about the guilt. Let me tell you what happened. It started 8 years ago. Arthur was diagnosed with Parkinson's. He was always so strong, a retired engineer. He built things in our garage. The tremor in his left hand seemed like a cruel joke. We told our daughter Claire and our grandson Leo that we'd manage. Arthur made lists of things to fix before it got worse. He was an architect of solutions. But lists can't stop time. The disease had its own blueprint. I became a cataloger of losses. First, he stopped driving. Then his woodworking tools gathered dust. His sentences would trail off. The connection between his mind and his voice just frayed. My role shifted from wife to caregiver. That title sounds noble. It felt like a series of small daily surrenders. Claire visited every weekend. Her cheerfulness was a bright, heavy blanket. During one visit, I saw my future in my grandson's worried eyes. Leo was 15. He found me crying in the kitchen. Arthur had spilled his medication. Leo just helped me clean up. Later he said, "Gran, you'll never put him in a home, right?" He'd seen a movie. I took his hand. I made a promise I knew might break me. "Never, sweetheart. We stay together." That promise became my cage. It tightened season by season. But I remember the last good day, a Tuesday in autumn. Arthur had a rare period of clarity. He pointed to the oak tree and said, "The leaves are like copper pennies." We sat on the porch. He held my hand, really held it. He said, "You're tired, Eleanor." Not an apology, just an observation. For a few hours, he was my Arthur again. That memory became a beacon. I tried to steer back toward it, but the fog kept rolling in. The falls started. I'd find him on the bathroom floor, confused and angry. I stopped sleeping. I listened for the thump. One night, after getting him back into bed, I stood in the shower. I screamed into a towel until my throat was raw. I wasn't screaming from sadness. I was screaming from rage. Pure rage at the man I loved for needing me so completely. That's when the first seed of guilt sprouted. After that, a cold practicality set in. I measured his life in risk and manageability. Then I started having a terrible thought, always in the deep night. The thought was, what if this ended? Not with a heart attack, but with a swift, quiet close. I imagined the silence. I imagined making tea just for one, and then I would hate myself. Claire would call and say, "How's my brave mom?" I'd want to shatter the phone. The universe, it seems, was listening. He passed on a Thursday, an uneventful night, no falls. I woke at dawn and he was just gone. His face was peaceful for the first time in years. I called 911, then Claire. I performed all the steps correctly. When the house was empty of strangers, I made a single cup of tea, and I felt it. A wave so powerful it buckled my knees. It wasn't grief first, it was relief. The guilt arrived by mid-morning, a permanent tenant moving into the space his illness had vacated. At the funeral, I wore the black dress. People said, "He's at peace now." I wanted to shout, "So am I." I just nodded. Claire clung to me, sobbing, "I'll miss him so much." And I would miss him, the him from before. But I didn't miss the midnight alarms, the soiled sheets, the man who sometimes looked at me with the eyes of a stranger. I felt like a fraud. I was mourning the idea of a husband while being secretly liberated from the reality. It was Leo who finally saw through the performance. He came over a month later to help sort Arthur's tools. He's a man now, 20. He looked at me and said, "You look lighter, Gran." It wasn't an accusation. It was an observation, just like his grandfather's. I broke. Sitting on that workbench, surrounded by ghosts, I told my grandson the truth, the rage, the secret wish, the profound relief. I waited for his horror. Leo put down a chisel. He took my hands, stained with dust and guilt. "Gran," he said, "you kept your promise. He never went to a home. You stayed. That's the love. The rest, the relief, that's just being human." He told me watching me care for Arthur didn't teach him about tragedy. It taught him about endurance. Enduring love has a cost. My guilt wasn't a betrayal of love. It was its final, exhausting tax. That conversation didn't erase the truth, but it allowed me to hold it without crumbling. So here I am. I still talk to Arthur sometimes. I tell him I'm sorry for the nights I wished for silence. I thank him for the autumn days of copper pennies. The guilt hasn't fully left. Maybe it shouldn't. It's part of the story. But I've made peace with the relief. It wasn't a monster. It was my own heart, begging for survival. If you're listening, carrying a similar secret shame from caring for someone you loved, hear me. Your endurance was love. Your exhaustion was human. Your relief is not a crime. It is proof that you stayed and you survived. Be gentle with your story. The sunlight is warm on the empty chair, and that's okay. And that's okay. But you see, that peace took a long time to find. After Leo left that day in the garage, I was alone with my thoughts again. The guilt would creep back in, usually at night. I'd lie in our bed and remember the bad times. The time he didn't know who I was for a whole afternoon. He called me the nurse. That hurt more than any fall. I'd stare at the ceiling and think, but you wished for this quiet. You got what you wanted. It was a mean voice in my head. Claire kept calling, always so worried about me being alone. She'd say, "You were so strong for him, Mom. Now you need to rest." And I wanted to tell her. I wanted to say, I wasn't strong. I was angry. I am relieved. But I couldn't. I'd just say, I'm managing, dear. I was performing again, just a different act. One morning I decided to clear out the hall closet. Arthur's coats were still there. I pulled one out, an old wool jacket. I held it to my face. I expected to smell him, his soap, his skin. But all I smelled was mothballs and dust. That's when I really cried. I cried because I couldn't remember his smell anymore. I'd lost that too. The illness had stolen so much, and now time was stealing the rest. I sank to the floor in that hallway, surrounded by his empty coats, and I sobbed. I sobbed for the man I married. I sobbed for the years we lost. And yes, I sobbed because I was free. All of it was true at once. That was the messy truth. It wasn't one feeling. It was a tangled knot of love and loss, and yes, relief. A few days later, Claire came over unannounced. She found me at the kitchen table, just sitting. She said, "You seem so far away, Mom." I looked at my daughter, her face so much like her father's. I took a breath. I said, "Claire, I need to tell you something." My heart was pounding. I said, "When your father died, my first feeling was relief." I braced myself. She went very still. Then her eyes filled with tears. But she didn't look shocked. She looked sad. She reached for my hand. "I know, Mom," she whispered. "I think I've always known. I saw what it did to you. I just didn't know how to talk about it." We sat there, holding hands, not saying anything for a long time. It was the first time I didn't feel alone in my own house since Arthur got sick. It was the first time I didn't feel alone in my own house since Arthur got sick. But that feeling didn't last. The guilt was a weed, and I'd only cut the top off. The roots were still there. Claire started coming over more, trying to help. One day she brought boxes. She said, "Let's finally go through Dad's study." I'd been avoiding it. That room was his last fortress. We opened the door. The air was stale. His desk was neat, just how he left it. Claire started on the filing cabinet. I sat in his chair. I opened the top drawer. There were his lists, dozens of them, on yellow legal pads. List of house repairs. List of books to read. List for me. Update Eleanor's will. Check furnace filter every November. I started to cry. Here was the proof. Even as his mind was unraveling, he was trying to take care of me. He was trying to fix things he knew he'd break. Claire came over. She saw the lists. She said, "Oh, Mom." She put her arm around me. I said I hated him sometimes. In the end, I hated him. I'd never said it out loud. Claire didn't pull away. She held me tighter. She said, "He hated it too. He told me once. He said, 'I'm turning your mother into a prisoner.' He knew." I looked at her. "He said that?" She nodded. "He was so ashamed of what it was doing to you. That's why the last good day meant so much to him. He told me about it on the phone. He said, I got to be her husband again for a whole afternoon. That broke me. I put my head down on his desk and I sobbed. I sobbed for him, carrying that shame. I sobbed for me, carrying mine. We'd been in separate prisons, side by side. All that time, I thought my secret wishes were a betrayal. I never knew he had his own. The cost wasn't just my freedom, it was his dignity. That was the hardest truth. I took it from him, piece by piece, every time I had to help him dress or eat. And he let me, because he had no choice. We both lost. When the crying stopped, I felt empty, clean. Claire was just sitting on the floor, leaning against a cabinet. I said, I'm so tired. She said, I know. We didn't sort anything else that day. We just sat in that quiet room, surrounded by the ghosts of his plans. The lists were love letters, and I'd been too angry and too tired to read them. The lists were love letters, and I'd been too angry and too tired to read them. I took one of those yellow pads home with me to my chair. I read them all, every scribbled note, every crossed out item. Fix loose step. Tell Eleanor she looks pretty. Buy more of her favorite tea. He was building a different kind of furniture in those last years, a framework for me to live in after he was gone. He was trying to shore up the walls of my future, knowing he would be absent. I was wrong about so much. I thought my secret wish for an end was the ultimate betrayal. I never saw that his lists were his own secret wish, for my peace, for my safety, for a life after him. We were both whispering wishes into the same dark room, just different words. The lesson wasn't about the purity of love. It was about its messy, complicated, exhausting truth. Love isn't just the copper penny days. It's also the rage in the shower, the resentment over spilled pills, the desperate hope for silence. It's all of it. To cut out the ugly parts is to tell a lie about what it really means to stay. So here's what I know now at 81. If you are in the thick of it, caring for someone who is disappearing day by day, hear this. Don't waste a single second feeling guilty for being human. Don't punish yourself for counting the hours until their nap, for dreaming of an empty house, for screaming into a towel. That doesn't make you a monster. It makes you a person pushed to the very edge of your strength. Your love is not measured by your saintly thoughts. It's measured by your tired hands showing up again and again. It's measured by the fact that you are there. And for heaven's sake, talk about it. Don't do what I did. Don't perform the role of the brave caregiver or the perfect grieving widow. Find one person you can tell the real, ugly, unvarnished truth to. The relief, the rage, all of it. If you can't tell a person, write it down. Say it out loud to the empty chair. Give it air. Shame grows in the dark. The moment you say, I wished for this to end, you take away its power. You'll find you're not alone. You'll find, like I did with Leo and then with Claire, that people see more than you think. They're just waiting for permission to speak the hard truth too. And there is life after. It's a different life, a quieter one. The guilt may visit, but you don't have to offer it tea. You can acknowledge it. Ah, there you are, old friend. And then you can let it pass. The love remains. It's not gone. It's just changed shape. It's in the memory of copper pennies. It's in the warmth of the sun on that empty chair. It's in the freedom to finally drink your tea while it's still hot. That freedom is not a betrayal. It is the gift your loved one, in their deepest heart, would have wanted for you. It is the other side of the promise. You stayed. You endured. Now you must live. If my story has found you, if any part of this tangled truth resonates with you, then please do something for me. Do something for yourself. First, subscribe to this channel. I'm just an old woman talking into the light, but there are more stories here, more voices sharing the things we often carry in silence. Turning on notifications means you won't miss the next conversation, maybe one you need to hear. If this felt true, give it a like. It's a small thing, but it tells the algorithm to show this to someone else who might be sitting alone with their secret. Now, this is the most important part. Go down to the comments. Don't be shy. Tell me one thing. It can be just a word. Relief, rage, tired, or tell me your story. You are not shouting into a void. I read them. I really do. Your words matter. And if you're not ready to share publicly, that's okay too. Sometimes it's easier to send it into the quiet. If you know someone, a friend, a sister, a neighbor, who is in the long middle of caring, share this video with them. Just send it. No big speech needed. It can be a message that just says, thinking of you. It might be the lifeline they don't know how to ask for.